Hello, I'm David. Welcome back to our new $100 Note podcast series. The podcast series dedicated to informing you of everything you need to know about the redesigned $100 note. You've joined us for episode 2 in our series, How to Detect a Counterfeit. I hope you caught the first episode where we learned that the design of the new $100 note includes 2 new advanced security features, the 3D security ribbon and the bell in the inkwell. Remember, we want you to know about the note's security features so that if you have a reason to doubt that the note you're about to accept is real, you know what to look for to verify its authenticity. Today's show, I'm excited to say, is going to be fascinating. First, we'll continue to learn about security features that are included on the new $100 note, such as the portrait watermark, the security thread, color-shifting ink, raised printing, and microprinting. Not only will we learn how these features help protect you from accepting a counterfeit note, but we'll also show you some of the tricks counterfeiters use so that you can avoid fakes. We're going to demonstrate how counterfeiters fool businesses and consumers, and we'll actually meet with one of the leading forensic scientists who will show us the clues that help put the counterfeiters behind bars. Think about it. Counterfeiters don't need to get their notes exactly right. They just need to make them good enough to trick someone. Stay tuned and we'll show you how, with minimal effort in just a few seconds, you can check the new $100 note and be sure that it's real. Our special guest today plays a primary role in the United States Secret Service's global pursuit of counterfeiters, Supervisory Counterfeit Specialist Kelly Harris. Kelly leads a team of highly trained forensic scientists in the Criminal Investigative Division's Washington, D.C. Counterfeit Lab. And now, without further delay, please welcome Kelly Harris. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, David.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
So, in our last podcast, we talked a lot about the new security features in the new $100 note, the security ribbon and the bell in the inkwell. Can you describe for us some of the other security features on the note?
Sure. I have an example of the new 100 here. And as you mentioned, you've already discussed the 2 new security features. We also knew that some of the security features previously used were very effective, and so we also kept those in this design. First is the portrait watermark. Now, if you hold the note up to the light, you can see a faint image of Benjamin Franklin.
Yep.
Now, to make it easier, I'll put it on a light table for you to see.
Okay. Yep, I can see him right there.
So that's what's called the portrait watermark, and you can view it from both sides of the bill. Now, on the left-hand side of the note is an embedded security thread. Now, this feature has a property that causes it to glow pink in UV light. So if you put the note under UV light.
Yeah, actually, could we just dim the lights so we can see this a little easier? Thanks. Yep. Oh, yeah, you can see it right there. That's very clear.
Now, this particular security feature is found in all denominations from 5 to 100.
Okay.
But based on the denomination, the security feature is in a different location and it glows a different color. Now, the $5 bill will glow blue under UV light. The 10 glows orange. The 20 will glow green. The 50 will glow yellow. And then the 100 glows pink.
Okay. Can you see it from both sides of the note or just from the one side?
You can view it from both sides, but depending on which side you actually put the UV light, the thread might look a little different.
All right, so are there any other features?
Well, there is actually a feature called color-shifting ink. Now, this is found in the lower right corner, and it uses the same ink that's found in the bell and the inkwell.
Okay.
Now, if you take the note and tilt it back and forth, you'll see that the 100 in the lower right corner actually shifts from copper to green.
Whichever way you tilt it, it'll change.
Just tilt it back and forth.
Okay.
One other very easy to recognize feature for the consumer is the raised printing. Now, this is found in the shoulder of Benjamin Franklin's jacket, and the printing is very pronounced, and if you rub your finger across it, you can actually feel how raised the printing is there.
Okay, right, like, oh yeah, the ridges.
That's a characteristic of the intaglio printing process, and very, very difficult for counterfeiters to replicate that.
Great. So, given that there are all these different security features, how is it that counterfeiters are able to create a counterfeit note?
Well, because digital technology is so inexpensive and so widely available, counterfeiters have a lot more tools at their disposal that they can use. Now, a lot of these tools will help them replicate the overall image and the look of the bill itself, but what they aren't able to do is replicate a lot of those security features that we've talked about. So we'll compare a counterfeit with what we call a specimen note, which is a genuine.
Okay.
And we can compare these side by side. So this is just a basic example of a counterfeit that is printed using a digital device.
Yeah, you can definitely see that the counterfeit is a little fuzzier than the actual specimen.
Yes, it's printed using a different type of printing, and if you were to rub your finger on the counterfeit, you wouldn't feel that raised print. that you recognized on the genuine.
Okay.
One of the other security features that is easy to check in this particular counterfeit is if you hold it up to the light to look for the portrait watermark. Okay. And we could use the light table if you would like.
It's Abraham Lincoln.
It's the incorrect watermark.
So they took a lower denomination note and then they made it look like a $100 note.
Exactly. And so if a consumer takes the time to look at the watermark and realize that it doesn't match the portrait, then they would know that something is wrong with this bill.
Okay. So you don't want to just check to make sure that there is a watermark. You want to make sure that the portraits match.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, one of the other things that some consumers could look for, particularly in the banking industry, is microprinting. Now, microprinting is found in various locations along the front of a bill. And when counterfeiters replicate or try to replicate microprinting, it often doesn't come out reading what the microprinting is supposed to read. And I brought a couple images to show you what that looks like.
Please.
Now, this image here is an example of the genuine microprinting found on a 100.
Okay.
This is in the portrait area of Benjamin Franklin, and you can easily read the text, the United States of America.
Yep.
In comparison, this is the counterfeit that you just looked at.
Okay.
Now, you can see in the portrait area that that United States of America text is all blurred.
Completely gone. This is the same counterfeit I just saw.
This is exactly the same counterfeit.
All right. Can you tell us anything about your team's day-to-day tasks in the forensics lab?
Well, whenever a new counterfeit comes into our lab, the first thing we try to do is see if it matches any of the counterfeits that we've already seen. So we'll do a simple check of our database to look for that information. Then we'll actually try to analyze the counterfeit and determine how it was manufactured and maybe what techniques the counterfeiter used to try to replicate some of these security features.
Okay. Do you see a lot of counterfeits from the same press or the same producer?
A lot of times there are characteristics in the counterfeit that let us know that they're coming from the same counterfeiter. In fact, sometimes we see counterfeits that are so bad they might have a misspelling or something in them, and when you see that over and over again, you know it's probably coming from the same counterfeiter.
Right. Is each and every $100 note exactly the same, or are there variations?
Each piece of genuine currency has a serial number that refers to the series year in which it was issued and the Federal Reserve Bank that it was issued from. Okay. Now, if you wouldn't mind handing me the new 100,
yeah, sure.
I can show you what some of those other distinguishing features are.
Okay.
Along with that serial number, the piece of genuine currency actually has small letters and numbers scattered throughout the front and the back.
Okay.
Now, these letters and numbers, as you can see here, actually tell us information about the genuine printing plate that this note came from the Bureau of Engraving and Printing.
Like a plate like this one?
Well, yes. This is actually a genuine production plate from the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. Neat. And these letters and numbers tell us not only which printing plate the note came from, but also tells us which position on the printing plate that note came from. So you can see on the printing plate there actually are those letters and numbers on the plate itself. I see them now. Yeah. So now, why would you want to know where on a particular plate a specific note had come from? Well, we use those letters and numbers in regards to counterfeits because obviously a counterfeiter is also going to have those letters and numbers on their counterfeit. Oftentimes, counterfeiters will use the same patterns of letters and numbers. Okay. So we enter that into our database and it helps us connect possible counterfeits together.
Now, what are some simple tools that merchants and consumers can use to protect themselves from counterfeit notes?
Well, there are a couple of very inexpensive and easy-to-use tools that the consumer can have. The first is what we call a magnifying loupe. Okay. This is a very inexpensive magnifying device that you simply place on top of the bill in question, and you can look for some of those smaller features like microprinting.
Right, that we saw earlier on the monitor.
Yes.
What else?
Well, a very small handheld UV light would also be helpful if you wanted to view the pink UV security thread found on the 100.
Okay. Makes sense. Now, I've always wondered about those pens that cashiers use at the checkout. Are they reliable?
That counterfeit detection pen is not always the most reliable resource to have because while it detects some of the components of paper that might be used to produce counterfeit, it also is very easy for the counterfeiters to treat their counterfeit so that it won't react to that type of pen.
Okay, so you want to rely on the security features that are built into the note itself.
Yes, that's very important.
Okay. What's my incentive to check currency at all?
Well, when you are the one that is left holding a counterfeit bill, you're the one that loses the money. So if you accept a counterfeit 100, you're going to lose that $100. So that's why it's very important for us to educate the public on what security features to look for. If they know those features, then they can be confident that they're accepting a genuine bill.
All right. Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks again for having me.
If you suspect you've been passed a counterfeit note, here are a few tips. First, note the characteristics of the person who attempted to pass the fake note, and if possible, write down a description of any vehicle he or she drove and the license plate number, but don't put yourself in any danger. Next, immediately contact your local police department or United States Secret Service field office. Secret Service contact numbers can be found on the Law Enforcement Interactive Map on www.newmoney.gov. Write your initials and the date in the border of the suspect note. Remember to limit the handling of the note and protect it by putting it in an envelope. Only turn the note over to a police officer or a U.S. Secret Service agent. This information and more on how to authenticate a new $100 note can be found on our official website at newmoney.gov. And now it's time for our special edition Did You Know Trivia segment, Spotlighting! Did you know the United States Secret Service was established way back in 1865 as a branch of the U.S. Treasury Department? It was originally created to combat the counterfeiting of U.S. currency. Back then, after the Civil War, it was estimated that 1/3 to 1/2 of the currency in circulation was counterfeit. It was not until 1901, after the assassination of President William McKinley, that the Secret Service began to provide presidential protection. The Secret Service was also the first U.S. domestic intelligence and counterintelligence agency. Today, the Secret Service has two distinct areas of responsibility: to protect the president, past presidents and their families, as well as to safeguard our financial payment systems from counterfeiting in order to preserve the integrity of the financial infrastructure of the United States. Following this episode, be sure to visit other parts of the website at newmoney.gov, the official site for information about the new $100 note. Check back often to learn more. Plus, look out for more episodes coming soon, where we'll explore other aspects of the new $100 note, such as the art of banknote design, the printing process, and following the life cycle of a note in circulation. Thank you for joining us, and I hope that you learned something new today. Until next time, I'm David. Remember, it only takes a few seconds to check the new $100 note. Know its features. Know it's real.